it's Gary here from Echidna, and today I want to show you how to use the Echidna thread tension gauge. Now this is the little spring gauge that measures the amount of tension on the thread. We use it mostly to measure the bobbin tension on machines, and it's really handy because bobbin tension is one of those things that a lot of people really do get stuck with, and it's one of those things that you have to get right before you can set any other tension on your machine. So let's have a look at why you would use it. Now my lovely camera lady is going to have a zoom in here and have a look at these letters that we've stitched out here. So there's 4 letter F's there, and they all look reasonably good from the top. But if I turn this upside down, you'll see the bobbin thread is quite variable, and that's because I've stitched them with 4 different tension settings, from a very light bobbin tension of about 10 grams here, all the way up to quite a heavy bobbin tension of about 50 or 55 grams there, and you'll see it varies all the way through. What we're ideally looking for is a tension that's set somewhere in here, which is around about 30 to 40 grams. So let's show you how to do this. It's really quite easy. Now I'm using a Brother VE2200, the Dreammaker machine here. You can do this on any machine. It doesn't matter what kind of bobbin you have. There'll be a slight difference in the way you might go about it, but it's essentially the same process. Our bobbin on this one is loaded from the top, and you'll see there, if I take this little cover off, I've actually cheated. I put like a peacock blue color in the bobbin. I normally wouldn't use that for embroidery, but I want you to be able to see the thread. The white thread's a bit hard to see when we're doing this little video. Now, if I take the bobbin out, you'll see when we load this bobbin, and I'll try and keep my hands out the way, the bobbin on this, and most machines with the drop-in bobbin system, simply slides in under that little guide there, and we bring it around here, we cut it off, and then we start embroidering. Now, in this case, I want to get the bobbin thread up through the needle hole. And the easiest way to do that, that's a little bit less fussy, is to drop the bobbin in the holder, bring it around, but instead of cutting it off, just leave a really long tail sitting there. So in other words, don't cut it on that little blade there. Grab the needle thread that I've got threaded here, and on this machine, I'm just hitting the needle up-down button twice, and that's going to draw the bobbin thread up for me, and I'm just going to grab that thread and pull it through. So you can see now that I'm pulling the bobbin thread through to the front of the machine. Now, if I take my gauge, let's explain how this works. It's basically what we call a force gauge or a tension gauge, and it has a plunger in the middle here, and there's a little spring up in here, and there's a scale. And we're looking at the gram scale, and you'll see right in the middle, there's this plunger, the little white guide there is sitting on 0. Now that means that right now it's in a neutral position of 0 grams. And if I pull that plunger, you'll see it moves down. The further I pull it, the more force or pressure it takes, or tension, to pull that down. And we can measure where that little plunger is on the scale. So we need the plunger to be on 0. If it's not on 0, if you have one of these or a similar device to this and it's not on 0, you can usually adjust that little adjusting nut at the top to make that sit on 0 when there's no tension on the spring. But it's on 0 now, so I'm ready to go. Let's look at what we do with the thread. So we've got the thread coming out through the needle hole towards you, and I just tie a little tiny loop. Simple loop, nothing too fancy. Make sure it's nice and firm. Hold that loop, grab the plunger and the hook on the end of it that can be pulled through like that. Just hook that into that little loop, and gently just pull the plunger or pull the device towards you or away from the machine. And you'll see this is settling in on around about 30 to 35 grams. And that's pretty much perfect. So this machine is set really, really well. And that would be giving me this kind of result, would be somewhere in the middle of these two. And that's ideally what we want, because we want some of the needle thread to be pulling through to, or wrapping around to the bottom of the fabric, but we don't want to have the bobbin thread peeking back up through the top of the fabric. So if your bobbin tension's too loose, that's exactly what would happen. You'd end up getting bobbin thread coming up to the top. And if it's too tight, it would be pulling really tight, and you'd see virtually no bobbin thread, as we can see there, and that'll give you a tight stitch. So as I said, basically we want about that 35, 40 grams is perfect. Now, if it wasn't correct and you had to adjust it, in this case, let's just say I didn't have enough tension on the bobbin and I needed to adjust it, I could just simply pop this little grey plate off, use one of our handy little Echidna screwdriver sets here, which has a removable bit in the end, and there's a whole heap of them in the top here, but that's the little one that I want to use, the tiny little tension adjuster there. And I can just tip that bobbin case up a little bit, and you can see there's the adjusting screw right there. Not this one, the Phillips head one holds it all in place, don't ever touch that. It's the little tiny slotted one there. If I needed more tension, I would simply turn that little screw, say a quarter of a turn to the right, righty-tighty, or if I needed less, quarter of a turn to the left, lefty-loosey. So remember that, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. In this case, I know it was perfect, so I don't need to adjust it. But actually I will, I'll show you the difference. If I take that around a quarter of a turn, and then put all this back together again, and we'll measure it, and you can see even a quarter of a turn can make a fairly significant difference. So let's measure this. So remember, we were sitting pretty much perfectly on 35 grams before. And if I take this and measure it now after that quarter of a turn, look at that, I'm at 45 grams. I've added 10 grams, almost 15 grams of tension by just a simple quarter of a turn. If you make an adjustment like that and it doesn't make any difference, it can often mean there's some lint or fluff caught in the tension device on the bobbin case. So you can clean that out, look for any foreign matter or thread that's caught there. That's a very common reason for your bobbin tension to be out, so check that first. But if it's clean and there's nothing there and you don't have enough bobbin tension, by all means tighten that screw by a quarter of a turn. But I really do recommend having either this gauge or the new electronic tower gauge that we have on our website as well, because it's a lifesaver. It really does make it easy for setting your tension. Hope that helps. If you have any other questions about this, just contact us and we'll certainly be happy to help you. Cheers.